Hello and welcome to this week's video. In this video, I am going to talk about a chapter in my book called Human Inversion. The Human Inversion book was written last year and I wrote it from a series of films that I made that I called the Human Psyche series. And in this series, what I was getting at was the archetypes that we're presented with in society and how we attach to these archetypes or we recreate these archetypes. And I'm going to discuss talking points within each chapter, so what I've actually put and what I'm actually mean by that. It's quite self-explanatory in the book, but it is such a huge talking point because primarily the problems that we have out there, as much as they seem so distant from us and separate from us, they are actually problems that are occurring within to start with. This is how reality works, all right? So reality is ultimately vibrating from you. So whatever you're having, emotions inside yourself, you've got feelings, you will project them out and vibrationally attract that frequency to you. Chapter number 2 in the book is called Moving Beyond Breaking Point, and it starts with a quote from Joseph John Campbell, who was actually the guy that helped George Lucas write Star Wars. Opportunities to find deeper power within ourselves come when life seems most challenging. So we are at that stage. We are at that challenging point. We are having huge challenges put around us in society. We have the main systems that are completely seem to be breaking down, and we have to reconfigure ourselves within that situation so we can move forward in the right place and move beyond breaking point, like the chapter says. So I'm going to read through the chapter and then I'm going to basically interject and talk about certain points on the chapter. The concept of the breaking point is defined as the subconscious threshold, which is the stage you are pushed because of psychological and emotional distress. For humans to move beyond the breaking point, we should first understand what the breaking point is. No matter what angle you look at this, we are at a major transition in our economies, international trade, proactive geopolitical leadership, full transparency to the powers that control us and the knowledge that has been held back from society. Because corruption and lies will have to be left behind in the newer version of the world that is ahead of us. And there is going to be a newer world, by the way. A lot of people talk of this dystopian reality coming ahead of us. Now, definitely that's been placed in front of us. And is this a route we want to take, that dystopian reality? I don't think so. I mean, you can clearly see that what's happened over the last few years, the way there's been such an uprising of people becoming aware to certain things, that's not going to happen. But we will be going through some big challenges, 100%. There is no doubt of that. There is going to be a golden age coming, but that golden age won't come until we've gone through them challenges. And you have to be in the right places for those challenges, and it's very important that. So yeah, this is very significant to what I just said, but to avoid this Orwellian dystopian future, we all have to remember that we are the controllers and manipulators of these systems, and we're all living in a co-creative experience which affects everyone. Whether you believe that or not, we create vibrational ripple effects, and those vibrational ripples then influence how individuals behave and communicate with each other. All our actions affect the larger picture of this 3D holographic reality. Like all your actions, every single aspect of your thoughts, everything is affecting this vibration. So you really want to get really kind of focused and clean on them thoughts, because that's really going to affect the reality you have out there, how you interact with people. Your interactions are really, really important. Like, you know, how you walk past someone in the street. Do you walk past them with your head in a phone? Do you walk past them with a smile on your face? Now, I tend to walk past people with a smile on my face, not walking around all the time like Happy Larry, but I think it is important that when you're around people that you want to vibrationally lift things, that you don't want to bring things into a low state. So if you're walking around with negativity and feeling angry, pissed off, and rightly so, I'm not saying don't feel like that, but if you're in that state, vibrationally you're not going to be putting out good energy, good vibes to the society we're in. And obviously a lot of people are locked into the mainstream media, which then translates into that, and then they ripple that out into society, and they're not even realizing that the message that they're getting fed, fear and anxiety, all this horrible stuff that the mainstream pushes, that really that's not the reality that's out there. You know, like, reality's pretty harmonious in our worlds, in the human world, the true human, because nothing's going to change out there, really. Believe me, it's not. You know, as much as we think some beautiful leader's going to come along and change everything, and I'm not saying there will be positive leaders, because I'm sure there will be positive leaders on their way, but please feel free to leave any questions or anything you want to add to what I'm saying in the comments below. It's always good to start discussion. When we act by listening to the self, we are then listening to our inner voice, which functions as the internalized guidance systems of the individual. The breaking point is the start as well, but this will naturally manifest true leadership qualities within those kind of individuals who act with integrity and sincerely want the best for humanity. So when them external negative situations happen, you shouldn't be wallowing in it, almost pulled down by it. Is let it rise you up, pick up your energy, and let it really empower you. And that's what I do with all this information. I don't let it kind of let me sink, you know. I look how wondrous, like if we just take history for an example, I find the old history very disturbing. I find it disturbing in a way because we have been lied to a certain level of certain parts of history, or completely distorted, should I say, as well. But at the same time, that has only been placed there for us to discover. It's only our own arrogance or ignorance where we don't look at information, we don't look and learn, we don't look and want to develop ourselves. So who's to blame there? No one's doing anything wrong. I'm not saying the people supplying that history is doing the right thing by distorting it, but at the end of the day, you're the one following the story, you're the one going with it. So it's only your participation in it that's making it actually happen. And that applies to every single situation. The corruption in governments has become a serious problem because most individuals unconsciously refuse to resolve subconscious issues with themselves. Most then project their own issues whilst expecting their leaders and institutions to take responsibility for everything. This results in the projection of the shadow, as so many do not want to take charge of their own life. So what we're doing, so emotionally, so when we don't look at our own self, we're actually putting that into what we call the shadow self. And that shadow self, when it's not looked at, it will actually go into authorities, governments, institutes, and that takes charge of us. And actually, that shadow self is actually what really runs a lot of our subconscious, what we're not aware of. So we should be fully aware to it. It doesn't mean that we have to solve every aspect of it. The breaking point within the minds of humans is essential for us to reach a turning point whilst we exist in this material world, because then we can achieve new directions and better perspectives. We have had these critical times many times before. Many great resets have happened throughout this history. They have been very different every time and depends on the level of spiritual awareness is discernible in various communities. But we have been deceived in the same way before because we have become docile, absorbed in our egos, and continue to remain ignorant to our history. But that time of ignorance is now slowly coming to an end. You will not stop this breaking point, as it is the stage in life where an individual has reached the maximum level of psychological and emotional tension. So it's like an elastic band. There's only so much people can take, right? And you can see that with social, political views. People, there's a kind of point where it will just ping and it will just be released. People can't take it. You know, there's a certain point. And we are getting to that point, you know, and that's where people need to be really emotionally stable and focused on what is going on and actually really clear to way reality is being structured. So once this happens, the individual can feel anguish, sadness, and frustration during the changes which arise from the breaking point. As this process happens, it will activate a lot of your own personal issues. And you will find you cannot ignore and repress memories from the past. We have let the material world distract us from finding out about our true soul journeys. So a lot of people understand that when you come into this life, you have a soul journey. Now, you know, the proof of that, it's not tangible in this reality, but through meditation, through healing, connecting in groups, you will find things. You will find other levels to this reality. Now, you can do that in many ways. There are many ways to connect, and that is just about centering yourself, tuning into yourself, and listening, going beyond what you see or in yourself. It's all there. And the breaking point that you reach in your life, that bit where it's kind of the elastic band, where it's gone right all the way back and there's nothing else that can be done and it's just about to release, that is actually meant to happen. All right. So, and it happens differently for everyone. Obviously, in the last 5 years, we've had something that's been major collectively happen to everybody. So you can see that needed to happen as well to some level. You know, we needed something globally to actually make people conscious and make people rise their awareness to the world they're in. But the breaking point is part of the Incarnate Challenge and can help you discover the reason why you're here on planet Earth. But often the challenge is too hard to accept because it will mean a breakdown of our minds has to occur, and this will come as a major perspective change in how you view this material world around us. It will remove you from your safety zone, which everybody likes to stay in. This is the very, you know, we have a big thing, us humans, with security, and we like to stay in that security blanket. And what you find is actually, it's not a good place to be in. Early on in my life, I had a few blankets, but I've always found if I get too comfortable with anything, that I will change. I will change it, and it has to change. If you don't do that, as much as it may seem that this is the right thing to do, changing it will actually give you vibrationally, take you onto another vibration. And that's kind of what you want to do. You don't want to be staying on the same trajectory all the time, right? It will remove you from your safety zone and give you a direct challenges, questioning you. The human psyche has been trained to visualize or perceive when something is dangerous. And this will then put our bodies into a panic. We retreat into seeking comfort and security because this is a specific aspect of how we have allowed ourselves to be programmed. We get that horrible feeling in our guts and we almost feel like we can't move until it seems we've become frozen in our actions. So you almost like freeze with panic, and then people just don't want to know, you see. I understand how challenges can do that to you. I personally in my own life have had so many challenges at a young age that I really went through a lot, and I really overcame a lot, and I didn't realize at the time that I was going through these challenges. Really, I just did what I had to do, like you do as a child or a teenager, but they were immense, you know, they were huge. And it's, again, going back to your soul journey, you know, you have manifested that somewhere in your soul journey. You've come down knowing that this is going to be your journey. So you know there's going to be a certain set of challenges. Now, we'll do a whole thing on the soul journey separately, but we're talking about moving beyond breaking point. But I'm just clarifying the soul journey so people understand that everybody, whether you believe in God or not, whatever you believe in, everybody has a soul journey. It's in your Akashic records, you know, when you come onto planet Earth, it's written. Most individuals do not realize that their brains process and visualize every image they see. This also applies with the other senses as well. Every kind of subliminal message is used in advertising, the news, and documentaries. We are programmed to react, so our neural networks become constantly activated when negatively emotive situations arise from different scenarios, which place individuals into a state of fear and panic. Therefore, our brains will process an outcome to make irrational decisions into a deeper state of fear and panic. It's a boundless loop that only served us in the older version of the material world. Now, these triggers that we've had, we get used to them. The neural networks, the brain has a set of neural networks, and it's programmed by the media we take in, certain information we take in, history we take in, all sorts of different things. And basically from these neural networks we get stuck in these patterns. So the neural networks run simultaneously, so they just keep running. Each day we get up, we eat breakfast, blah blah, but we have that pattern, you see, and the neural networks get used to that pattern. So it can be very difficult when you're faced with a challenge to actually step out of that neural pattern network. You know, it fixates your belief on what you're seeing and everything. Our neural networks are going to react to the media we see. So if we're programmed to react to fear and anxiety, you know, anger, that kind of thing, we will react on them levels. And by reacting in that way, you literally are pulling that situation to you, attracting that situation to you. But the media that just piles out all this stuff that really doesn't mean anything to anybody. It really doesn't. And, you know, it really just is just feeding them neural networks, negative neural networks, you know, these negative patterns. It's completely understandable that many individuals get pulled into these fear states, and most of us have been told so many lies about history and religion that we've been so conditioned with such a huge amount of misinformation that truth and fiction have become mixed together. Everyone requires a narrative as a way to satisfy our needs and wants and expectations. When we are presented with a comfortable version of the material world, that makes us feel safe. And of course, everybody wants a safe world, right? But when that safe world is based on lies and based on fake reality, that's very dangerous, because you can then steer that reality, and whoever put them lies in place can steer that reality, and that's what we don't want. We want to take society forward with truth, and we can only go forward with truth in this current situation, and really it won't get any better till there is 100% truth, and that means everyone, every single aspect of everything. Some of you might understand when I say this, but you are being watched, all right? So you are being, I don't mean that in surveillance terms, but there is a higher existence observing your actions on this planet. And, you know, they are aware of every single aspect of who you are, what you think, and there's nothing you can do about that. That's the collective consciousness, and I won't go into that in today's video, but there is definitely certain energies watching us, and it's good to be aware of that, because when you're aware that there is a much bigger picture to your existence on this planet, that you will see that this is what this journey is and how worthwhile what we're going through is, and there's everything, how everything matters, and you'll have a correct understanding to dark and light, which is a huge distortion on this planet that we've been led to believe about good and evil and how that is portrayed. It does exist, but it's how we interact with it that makes it what it is. We forget that the future is never completely predetermined, even if it has been written on some stones. It is being created every minute, and it is not possible to create the exact future as much as some think they can. But the controllers and manipulators have certainly been planting information and stories into the human psyche, so various kinds of events unfold. Lots of individuals have been taught to demonstrate their power only when they express fear or anger. Many cannot cope with their own traumas and repress their emotions by using addictions such as alcohol and drugs. Instead of such individuals standing in their power, they only allow fear to enter their bodies. Even though they could quite easily become aware of how condensed and mundane the material world has become, they always seem to wait for the fear to create a reaction. So that, again, that connecting back to media, people will wait right to the edge until the media express it. Once you let that fear create a reaction in your body, you've allowed the controllers to then start manipulating your reality. And that's a whole other level, which I'm not going to talk about in this video. but there is a whole interaction on another level of frequency that's going on there. And you've brought that into your life. And then they use the fight or flight mechanism to then distort your reality emotionally. So we continually taught to inversely react against the material world. And by doing this, the actions dilutes our core strengths and makes individuals attract more negativity based in their experience of their own lives. It is a vicious cycle that humans need to become aware of, otherwise the cycle will just continue. Exactly, you see, if you just let this happen, so you let that emotion into your body, you let controllers take control of your reality, they're manipulating your reality, feeding you this, feeding that, they got you by the string. They're literally pulling you around as a puppet. And you're just walking around in this world, just taking in, zapping up everything that you're given from any authority or institute. So the frequencies and vibrations around planet Earth are now shifting for the better. And with such changes and wonders of the Great Awakening will occur over the next few years, I would say a bit more. I wrote this slightly different time when I wrote this book. But yeah, I would say more. It will start in a few years, but it will start really taking motion mid 2035 is when I would say that's when we're going to start seeing something really special. And really, it's truly special. I can't explain it, but I do feel it. And it's also in so many, it makes sense that them dates for the path of where we're going and what will happen, certain things, astrological things that will happen as well. However, much of humanity will still have to deal with the intense challenge of existing in this material world. What really gets me is the fact that if everything changed tomorrow, all of us would still exist as we are now. Most individuals make judgments of one another. They pretend to live perfect lives. They hold so much distrust. It is very sad that individuals rely on the mainstream media instead of listening to their own intuition or even their own families. We have to understand that every aspect of truth is essential to the spiritual development of humanity. In 2020, when I explained to my family what was going on with this battle, this spiritual battle, the family was, it was a challenge. That was a huge challenge. And I know a lot of other people went through that as well. So, you know, challenges having to deal with their family and unfortunately coming up, you know, later in the last, you know, what's happened over the last few years and even happening now is terrible. So I really sympathise with anybody that's gone through things, and it was a terrible time for that, and so many decisions and choices and people not listening. But I did think it was sad the way we didn't tune into that intuition, and you know, people should listen to their families, you know, as much as you might think somebody's crazy or something a bit of a different opinion to you, it's important that you listen to them. We all share. Families are really, really crucial that they rebound off each other and share information. But unfortunately, families don't do that, and they divide. And you know, it's nothing worse than that, because the core DNA and the core structure of your family is your soul brothers and sisters. You know, that's your soul family. So to move beyond a breaking point to a place where we feel settled and can grow within the material world where we feel is collapsing, we have to center ourselves. This does not have to be some kind of method that has come from the New Age movement. However, we must find ways to connect within our inner selves, because it is very important to continually listen to your own voice, which is an integral part of yourself and your soul personality. Your voice is a tone, it's a vibration. So you're speaking, there's a tone coming out of your mouth and words you say. Now, again, that's a whole other thing, language and how that's been distorted. But it's really important that you vibrate the right words out of your mouth. I do the best I can. Part of the reason for doing these videos, all the videos on my content, to be fair, is to actually put my voice out there. I still train at that. I still work at that. I know how important that is. And I think that everybody should do that, or could do that. The should is always a bit of a funny word. I don't like to say should, so I always like try and correct it with could, because I don't think we should do anything. We could do something. It's always keep the possibility. If you don't know how to center yourself, just go into a remote part of Mother Nature and close your eyes for 15 minutes and just listen. You should start with that and truly perceive how you feel. It is true to say that most humans are very out of touch with their own natural energetic cycles. This is the last section, and I will summarize it in a minute, but we have to get in touch with our psychic abilities. Again, we have become distorted on what this is, but this is ultimately an essential basis of intuition. For many individuals, this idea might not seem important, but using innate psychic sense is a vital part to our spiritual development for many individuals. By tuning into such levels of awareness, you will find overcoming the breaking point a less stressful and turbulent event. When it comes to psychic abilities and creativity, both aspects can be used to help with developed a greater perception of self-awareness. Hence, practicing creativity will always lead to a positive transition and will always be to elevate you from anxiety and fears. Now, that is what I believe. I really feel that creativity is the answer. You know, if you feel that you're feeling suffocated or boxed in or can't find a way out of something emotionally, and you're trapped and you're feeling over frustrated with something and doing something, just sit down, put a pen to paper, write, draw, do whatever you need to do. Paint, get a paintbrushes, do whatever you need to do, because creativity will release everything out of yourself like that. And you'll be thinking, well, what is the point of this? Well, the point is the very point you're doing it. So that is the point. It's the point that you're actually activating yourself on another frequency to open your mind creatively, so then you can become more empowered. So don't you find it interesting that with creativity, that one of the main things that's always cut in society and cut on anything, film budgets, theatre budgets, whatever it is the set budgets, is the art budgets. It's always the creative budgets that are cut. In the world we live in, you know, logically, I get that. I get that, you know, certain things are cut because it seemed as more important. Economics is seems as a higher importance in education, so that's given more funding. But you could look at it another way, and that is that actually that creative mind is actually your release. And really, the release is more important than the sort of whole aspect of everything. That what's really important with being creative is that by staying creative, you are constantly opening your channel to allow more things into yourself. So creativity is an essential tool, and we need creativity because creativity is a way that we can express ideas, concepts without hurting anybody, and we can express our own minds, and we can explore who we are in that journey. And something creativity has always done for me is help me understand the deeper part of myself. And if I've ever felt any trauma or anxiety about the world out there, I will translate it into a film, documentary. Even the Hidden History series, to some level, is almost like me getting out this part of myself, which me and my brother have discussed for ages, for over so many years that we've talked about all this information. And it's a way to get it out and actually put it out to people in a positive way. I want to talk about it and see where that leads. It's like the old Greek philosophers, you know, like they'd sit round, they'd just talk for hours about information to discuss and find a resolution on what we are, who we are, what we're here for. Why are we here? You know, big question, you know, like think about it. Think about, you know, we can go through, we can earn money, we can, you know, all this stuff, these different levels, tiers to society. But what are we actually here for? Why did we come to planet Earth? Why did we arrive on planet Earth? And we arrive with all these challenges and all these external leaders that want power and control over humanity. I mean, Why has this happened? Why? It's always been my big question for life. So, you know, if you want to become more empowered, have a look at this book. There's a lot of great information in there. You can also check out the other videos I did on the human psyche series, which are very helpful and got some great info in there as well. Until next time, I'll see you soon.